Hello friends, welcome back to this channel, the friend of your freedom to think and live freely. Why is our world so convulsed with serious health problems, political struggles, world domination and control, genocidal extermination of races and religions, wars, diseases and deaths? Are we free? Who is free on this planet? Do you decide for yourself using your moral, spiritual, and ethical values, or rather there are who have been manipulating your thoughts and way of thinking? With this video, I continue with the development of this important topic about the free ability to think, reason, and make your own decisions that can allow to be yourself when you express opinions and decisions in your daily life. I will present the development of the ability to think from childhood and during school, social, and professional development. In that way, it will be possible to notice that it is very likely that the ability to think and decide how to live is largely conditioned by factors external to the individual, which can be negative for natural development as a free human being to decide how to take an active part in his own development and in that of the community to which it belongs. In childhood, the human being is characterized by being spontaneous and sincere in what he says and does, without knowing how to measure the consequences of his actions or words. It is very common for children to speak to themselves and develop imagination and creativity in what they say and do. An example of their sincerity and simplicity can be seen when they say with absolute clarity that they do not like the gift received or that they do not like the food that is ready and served to eat. Of course, with the passing of time, the children learn that there are rules and norms of courtesy and behaviors to learn depending on when and where they are. And it could happen that little by little, their wishes, concerns, questions, doubts, creativity and imagination, dreams, fantasies, protests, opinions, etc., may be limited not only by the natural development of home schooling, taught and directed by parents, but also due to the very frequent conditions of cause and effect. That is, the child will try to have a behavior that is accepted in his environment as long as receive the award for good action of conduct, and thus avoid receiving some form of reprimand for not behaving as expected. In other words, the child can learn what is acceptable behavior even if he did not understand why behave that way. In a certain sense, it must be so. Little by little, the minor is understanding the moral and social values and the behavior that is expected from him. But very often, those values are not taught. What is very important is learning the behavior that receives the award, although that behavior is not part of his own natural individuality and personality. And what happens when the child reaches the age of school education? Of course, he continues learning, but now development is also academic, and he has to accept and believe what the books say and the teaching given by the leaders of the classes, that is, the teachers or professors. In this environment, the student, in order to pass exams and be promoted in the study levels, goes to school to learn and memorize information already developed by other people, of course. He does not have to invent, develop, or formulate new alternative propositions to the knowledge imparted, since everything is ready to be taught. In that way, the student is a consumer of information, and the education received seems more like an indoctrination. It is something like arriving at a restaurant to eat the food that is already prepared and ready to be served, and I only have to pay and eat it without having to do absolutely anything in its preparation and presentation. That is, I am just a consumer. The best school environment at all levels is a place where the student can develop individual freedom to form criteria and opinions. It must be an environment to stimulate, motivate, and direct critical and reflective learning by investigating, discovering, and knowing new information, where questioning what was received and seeking answers should be an essential part of the student's development. A development not only in the academic field as a student, but also as a member of our community, that is, a free and independent person who is encouraged to have the interest to participate in the development and advancement of all areas of the community where his contribution could be needed. It is not convenient for the development and mental capacity of a student who has to accept what is said because it is so established, without being able to ask or question what is taught, seeking answers to his concerns and doubts. Yes, he can reason about the information given, but within certain pre-established limits. In this way, what is taught in the subject is not altered, which is what is motivating the student to analyze and question. This situation is quite common in secondary education, where the theoretical concept of evolution, for example, is taught in various ways in different subjects of study. And in the university environment, in many countries, the communist ideology is presented as the answer to the development and progress of humanity. This is a form of information consumption where the free analysis and questioning of what has been taught is not well received and could even be the cause of not being able to pass studies and being able to graduate. In some parts of the world, due to this fact about the consumption of information, they are trying to make profound changes in educational systems in order to teach to think. That is, not only to consume the information imparted, but rather to motivate to critical and analytical reasoning, which allows the student to discover and develop their own potential of free thought capacity, where they can analyze, question, and suggest answers. That is, not necessarily accept information provided because the books and the educators say so, who often teach and propose their own opinions and ideas, but rather help the student to understand that everything that is taught has a reason for being so, and that is useful for something, and also everything that he learns is related to other areas of knowledge, and in that way the student is an environment where he can easily see the usefulness of everything is being taught and he can learn. To develop the reasoning, it is important not only to stimulate children and young people to ask questions, but also guide and join to the investigation process so that they are those who respond to their concerns, developing their ability to think. And what about social life? In the non-student social environment, something similar happens. Everything is already prepared with its norms, rules, laws, and patterns of behavior and social stereotypes pre-established in writing or by popular tradition. In that way, the natural and social environment models and limits the human identity, and thus the person could stop being a free person to think and reason based on personal, moral, religious, and ethical values. Since to have what is often called success, the individual must apply more and more in the way of thinking and behaving the guidelines established and accepted in the social and professional environment. In a few words, the individual can stop being a free person with full capacity to question, analyze, reason, make decisions, and express his opinion and seek changes and improvements for everyone, and then become one more person in the large group of the population where behaviors, ways of thinking and acting are basically the same for everyone, where personal values of morality, love of neighbor, and country do not matter and may still be completely absent, being replaced by selfishness, greed, and the search for the power given by political parties and money, often obtained in a corrupt and illegal way. So far, you can see that the environment could define the goals of your life and how to achieve them, what to do and what to put aside, and what direction to follow to achieve those objectives. It makes sense that the individual needs to understand and accept the natural and social environment with its norms, rules, and laws, which is a very important part of life in any community, be it small as a family or as large as the population in a nation. The understanding of the environment and of their own personality should stimulate the person to explore its natural and acquire potential in order to be motivated to achieve its place in collective development, where to apply his free ability to think and reason in all areas of life as an individual and as a member of the community. If you want a country to progress, to produce knowledge, to have critical and thoughtful inhabitants who reach better opportunities in life, the task is present. Teach and promote the free ability to think, express opinions, and act freely. That ensures a country with democracy, a real democratic country. Freedom of thought is limited by society in different ways when it is tried that citizens accept rules of control of free, frank, and open expression by controlling different media and forms of communication, and it may still be the case of repressive measures at the civil, political, and even religious level. It is common to find newspapers, magazines, and newscasts where you cannot mention certain words or opinions that do not favor the current government or the official version of important events, and even television channels that very subtly encourage to change your mind on altruistic values of human coexistence due to social discrimination, contempt, and even violence in some of its different forms. What can clearly be a serious inconvenience for the development of a person and, of course, the community to which he belongs is the fact that the individual is not aware or does not recognize the limitations imposed by the environment in the capacity and natural right to be free to think and decide how to live for himself and what contribution could give to the community. The main problem that arises is in the believing that this is not the case, in denying the limitations imposed by the environment and ensuring that we live freely and that we choose at every step the direction of our lives, which is not entirely true, and very often it is absolutely false. We can be conditioned to think and act in ways already pre-established by educational institutions, civil, religious, and political leaders. In short, the freedom we think we have is such as long as we do not go against academic, professional, political interests, etc., of a relative minority of the leaders in all areas of human affairs throughout the world. In fact, this is the current situation since January of the year 2020. The situation in world health and political administration is alarming almost everywhere, largely due to the lack of free and proper judgment in decision making by political and civil leaders and governmental and international organizations, where commitments and selfish interests outside the public welfare do not allow them a clear, transparent, and fair administrative management for the welfare of the population, which is always the majority, but with little decision-making capacity and free choice in how things should be done so that everything goes better and for the benefit of all. As it has been exposed in this presentation, the way of thinking and deciding how to live is the result in great part of learning and experiences in life, where the educational process is really very important. But that is not always what happens worldwide. Many leaders in the world want you to believe that you are free to think and decide for yourself. But they can manipulate your reasoning with often false information and propaganda of all kinds. They deceive the world with beliefs, philosophies, ideologies, theories called scientific, with religious heresies, even in Christianity, false Christs or saviors of humanity, harmful mass consumer products for your mind and body, or that are unnecessary. But they try to convince you that if you don't buy those products or services, you will be losing something very important. And thus, they develop a consumerist society, no society or way of thinking where the people buy what really needs. Many leaders frighten people with the idea that do not allow to pierce the skin on the shoulder with a needle filled with a liquid that there is no way of knowing and checking what it contains, then life is in danger. But they do not warn the people of the risks in a short or long term when the person is subjected to that measure. Other political leaders try to convince you that you are not who you have always believed yourself to be, but rather you decide if you are male or female. That's as you please and like it. This is what's being called the gender ideology. In other words, being a man or a woman depends on the decision of each one. These are just a few examples that tell us that we are not as independent in decision making as is often thought. The development of a community, whether local or national, requires the free contribution and dedication of all its members in all the various possible ways, and for this, each individual must decide how and what he will do for his own good and development, and the same for his own community and the good of the country. I am very grateful for giving me this opportunity to present this information on the development of the ability to think and its limitations in personal and collective progress and success. I invite you to subscribe to this channel and also give this video a thumbs up and ring the little bell. If you do so, it will be really good for this presentation and for more videos coming. And of course, your comments and questions are very important for me and of a great help to know much better my visitors on my channel. And I also thank you for sharing this video. It is really very important to share this message about free thinking and personal development. Thank you very much. Thank you. I really thank you for this visit.